I'm going to be reading from the book of Numbers, chapter 32. Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle. The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spoke unto Moses and unto Eleazar the priest and unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Adaroth and Dibion and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon and Elealeh and Sebam and Nebo and Beon, even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel, is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. Wherefore they said, If we found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for a possession, and bring us not over the Jordan. And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, Shall your brethren go to war, and shall ye sit here? Wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given them. Thus did your fathers when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up unto the valley of Eshcol, they saw the land, and they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which the Lord had given them. And the Lord's anger was kindled the same time, and he swore, saying, Surely none of the men that came up out of Egypt, from 20 years old upward, shall see the land which I swore to give to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. And the Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was consumed. And behold, you are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of the Lord toward Israel. For if you turn away from after him, he will yet again leave them in the wilderness, and shall destroy all this people. And they came near unto him and said, We will build sheepfolds here for our cattle, and cities for our little ones, but we ourselves will go ready armed before the children of Israel until we brought them unto their place. And our little ones shall dwell in the fortified cities, because the inhabitants of the land. We will not return unto our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan or beyond, because of our inheritance is fallen to us on this side of the Jordan eastward. And Moses said unto them, If you will do this thing, if you will go armed before the Lord to war, and will go all of you armed over the Jordan before the Lord, until he hath driven out his enemies from before him, and the land be subdued before the Lord, then afterwards you shall return and be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel, and this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Build you cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spoke unto Moses, saying, Thy servants will do as my Lord commanded. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead, but thy servants will pass over, every man armed for war before the Lord to battle, as my Lord saith. That's Moses talking about 2.5 tribes. That didn't want to inherit the promised land. They wanted to occupy, but they were willing to go and fight. so that everybody got where they were going. They weren't going to do like their dads did. They're going to be men. And here we are today. What's the promised land? Who is your Moses? Our houses are divided. Our faith is divided. You're not going to cross over the Jordan. Some people don't want to go. And it's going to cause problems. And those problems aren't the same. That's for our learning. It takes what it takes. And we're to drive the enemy out, not to build him up. And we have a common faith, or we don't. And you know, you're told to pick up your cross, and I'm fully aware that it would be hypocritical to say that I lived a time where I wasn't carrying my cross. There have been times where I carry it just fine, and there are other times I can't carry it at all. And that's part of growing up in the faith. You don't start out ready for war, but man, you sure do feel good and you want to tell everybody about Jesus. But then the world will get you, and it'll wear you down, and you'll think that your life in the Lord is for serving the world. What's the promised land? Is a new heaven and a new earth. And a new kingdom. That's what we're establishing. And there needs to be some order to it. But some people aren't able to go to battle. We're going to have to leave them behind. You know, like one of David's armies, the men were too weak. They hadn't ate, starving to death, feeble. They're not ready. They're not ready for the battle. The Lord didn't need them to be. David didn't need them to be. It's like, all right, y'all hang back. We're going to go get this done. And they did. And when they came back, they was like, well, those people ain't going to get any of the rewards. They didn't do any of the work. And, you know, David's like, that's not how it's going to be. Everybody's going to get something from this. We're going to share in this. Start thinking about the first church. And you'll see they shared in it. Some sat and gave themselves the words, and then they started developing an organization. They started advancing the kingdom. And that's what I'm all about. If you aren't ready, you're not ready. And that's can be frustrating. And that's why I have Deuteronomy marked in 34, because it's a mistake that the leadership needs to be aware of. And it says, and Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah unto the uttermost sea, and the Negev, and the plain, and the valley of Jericho, and the city palm tree, and unto Zoar. And the Lord said unto him, this is the land which I swore unto Abraham, unto Isaac, unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over there. Moses didn't get to go because of a single event. He got frustrated with people who are always whining, never willing to wait. And he didn't sanctify the Lord, and he struck the rock. And he lost that ability to go over the Jordan. But he didn't lose his place in heaven. He didn't lose his place in the future. He was making place for Christ. And they've already crossed over the Jordan. We're moving on to a promised land. Some of you ain't ready. And I need to help you get ready. I need you to see that the thoughts and decisions that you make determine your outcome. That's what that book says. If you don't share in the work, you're going to cause problems. And there's no need for you to name the name and then do otherwise is where the problem comes from. Because you set up a very trustworthy name. We're doing this in the name of the Lord, and they make fun of you, and then there's everybody gets onto the Christians for the Crusades, and I don't blame them. They weren't Christians either. About as much as anything else that shows itself to be concerned with something and then never gets around to getting it done. Some of you are just going to have to stay back, but stay out of the way. The train has left the building. You know what I mean? Tomorrow ain't ever going to come. And, knowing these things about yourself will help you see who your enemies are, where their doctrines are. Could preach all night. I could encourage you all night. I could confess all my sins to you. That ain't going to change a thing for us, is it? Make today, tonight, the line that you will not cross. Put your kids in the cities and your wives in the cities, but we got to go to war. We got to start calling down strongholds. We're in a lawless situation, and we're not lawless people. But, it blows my mind that where we are today, we spent $1 trillion. I'm just talking about the start of the COVID event. All we needed to do as a nation was sit still for 30 days in our homes and just suspend our lives. Just hit the pause button. But instead of doing that, which would have cost us nothing compared to what it's going to cost us in the future, but it sure has set up a lot of other things, hasn't it? It's we eventually have got to quit talking and start doing. And I know it's out there. People have a heart for good. I run into them all the time. Work for some of them, most of them. And they have a heart for this stuff, but they don't have any leadership. And they're scared. They're not ready. They're not ready. They're hoping in the world and praying to God. It's a divided house. That's not saying anything to condemn anyone. It's just saying to point out that, hey, if that's what you really want, then quit pretending to care. You know, bad things are going to happen. It's life's ups and downs, the merry-go-round you can't get off of. It's because you can't work out your problems. And the world makes it difficult for you to even be able to see what your problems are. But in that book is a story that ain't changed in thousands of years. And it's funny, the story, the names change, the places change. But who's doing what is clear to see. That faith in Christ, and you want to go tell everybody about, that's what it's about. It's going back and going, okay, why did this guy give his life for me? You need to understand why he gave his life for you before you can understand the depth. And that's what it is. People have no deepness of earth, deepness of the gospel. It's a one and done, and then they run around everywhere trying to live in the world and have a preacher preach to them about how to get along friendly. And then, you never pick up your cross. I'm not saying it in a condemning way, but I'm always offensive when I talk for some reason, and I don't mean to be. But stumbling at the stumbling block is what it's likened to. And then we live in a system that's perpetually got stumbling blocks. They call them achievements. But right now, most people I run into, they perceive problems everywhere. And I want to help you change that today by telling you to change the word problem to opportunity so you can see what you need to do. And you keep calling them problems, and they're nothing more than opportunity for you to see the glory of God. Have faith in His words. If you don't believe Him, believe the works. If you don't do the works, you don't have any way to measure. And it's common sense. Like I said, I don't particularly see anything wrong except for the fact that people say one thing and do another. They use the name. They speak it with their mouth, but their hearts are far from it. On my street, I don't have the world problems. And then I go to the gas station, I don't have the world problem. I'm not running into the chaos I see on the media. I'm not running into the chaos. I see a lot of potential, though, for chaos. At any rate, thanks for spending time with me this evening. Morning if it's morning for you. And I pray that you consider getting in the Word a little bit and seeing what some of these things mean to you, to your children, to your families, to your nations, what it means for each other going forward.